Hello, I'm Dr. Terry Susan Fine, Content Specialist for the Florida Joint Center for Citizenship, which is part of the School of Politics, Security, and International Affairs at the University of Central Florida in Orlando. Welcome to our Middle School Civics Highlights series. We'll be focusing on Benchmark 2.3, in which we will identify and apply the rights contained in the Bill of Rights and other amendments to the U.S. Constitution. In Part 1, we will be focusing on the U.S. Bill of Rights and other amendments. We will recognize that the Bill of Rights comprises the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution, and we will also recognize the 5 freedoms protected by the First Amendment. We will also evaluate how the Bill of Rights and other amendments, including the 13th, 14th, 15th, 19th, 24th, and 26th Amendments, influence individual actions and social interactions. What is the Bill of Rights? What are the 5 freedoms in the First Amendment? And how do other amendments influence individual actions and social interactions? So first we have a very interesting and complex graphic. What is the U.S. Bill of Rights? Now, as you can see, there are short phrases included in each of the 10 boxes, each representing one of the 10 amendments to the U.S. Bill of Rights. So not all of the rights that are in the U.S. Bill of Rights are represented in this cartoon representation. But what I really like about this is it gives us a sense about what some of these rights are about. So for example, we see from the Second Amendment, it includes 2 parts. One is the right to bear arms, and the other is the need for a militia, the need to be able to protect ourselves as a country. So we see in this cartoon representation, not only are people carrying guns, but they're also carrying guns in uniform, suggesting the connection between the military and using guns for self-defense. So what are the 5 freedoms protected by the First Amendment? Well, the First Amendment includes 6 components, but one of those components is that Congress shall make no law establishing a religion. So that's not a freedom, rather that's a protection. We are being protected from Congress deciding that all people live in the United States should practice a specific religion. But the other 5 remaining elements to the First Amendment are freedoms. One of those freedoms is the freedom of speech. The freedom of speech gives us the opportunity to say what we want, but naturally, as we've discussed in other situations, not all freedoms are absolute. So for example, if that freedom of speech might be used in a way that's harmful, there may be limitations on that speech. There's also freedom of the press. Freedom of the press means that the media can broadcast or print or distribute information that they want to print. Freedom of peaceable assembly. It's not just freedom of assembly, it's freedom of peaceable assembly is also protected by the First Amendment, as is the free exercise of religion. Finally, there is also the freedom to petition the government for the redress of grievances. So we have a freedom to reach out to the government if we believe that the government has done something that is wrong and needs to be fixed. So how do other amendments influence individual actions and social interactions? If you take a look at the amendments in the left side of this graphic, what you're going to find is that 4 of the 6 amendments that are included on the left side relate to political participation. So we'll be taking these a little bit out of order because I want to focus on that theme for a bit. The 15th Amendment extends voting rights to black males aged 21 and over. So what this means is that there was a group of citizens who were denied the right to vote, or the states could deny them the right to vote. Some states did and some states didn't. And now, because there was an amendment to the Constitution, this meant that the states could not deny black males age 21 and over the right to vote. The 19th Amendment extends voting rights to women. Now, there were states that did allow some women to vote under some circumstances at the state and local level, but again, by making this a constitutional amendment, this meant that no state could deny women the right to vote. In 1964, the 24th Amendment was ratified, which denies to states the right to impose poll taxes. A poll tax means that a person has to pay to vote. And through this constitutional amendment that affected the whole country, this means that the states that were imposing poll taxes could no longer impose poll taxes. Then in 1971, the Constitution was amended again to extend voting rights to citizens 18 and over. Now, previous to this, there were some states that allowed 18-year-olds to vote in some circumstances, but not all. So this basically lowered the voting age, which had been 21 for the whole country because of the 15th Amendment, right? All people 21 and over could vote, including black men, and extended this right to every person 18 and over, as long as they were, of course, a U.S. citizen. So now let's look at the first two amendments in this information graphic on the left side. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery. So after the Civil War, the Congress took action, took steps to ensure that the system of slavery that had been in place during and before the Civil War could not repeat itself. And so by imposing this national amendment on all the states, the southern states wanted to continue having slavery, but this amendment was saying that you states do not have this choice. The 14th Amendment is really quite lengthy. The 14th Amendment grants citizenship to former slaves, defines citizenship, and requires states to guarantee privileges and immunities, due process, and equal protection. So the 14th Amendment makes certain that a lot of the decisions that are made by state governments were now limited because the national government took certain powers away from the states by saying, you can't decide who gets equal protection, you can't decide who gets due process, you can't decide who is a citizen, etc. And so the 14th Amendment gave to former slaves their citizenship. So what has been the influence on individual or social interactions? Well, the 13th Amendment shows us all persons are free unless through due process their freedom is taken away, such as being convicted of a crime and then imprisoned because of that conviction. The 14th Amendment, all persons born in the U.S., including those born into slavery, were now U.S. citizens to whom the U.S. government has made guarantees. The 15th Amendment, all adult male U.S. citizens now possess the right to vote regardless of their race. All adult female U.S. citizens possess the right to vote regardless of their race. And then finally, we look at the two later amendments relating to voting rights. Again, as we talked about, the 24th Amendment took that right away from states to impose a fee to vote in elections, and similarly, states could not decide who between 18 and 21 could vote. Anyone and everyone between 18 and 21 could vote. Thank you for joining me for Middle School Civics Highlights. Do you still have questions? Please contact us using the information that appears on the screen. Till next time, I'm Dr. Terry Susan Fine. Thank you for joining me.